Welcome back to Good Better Broker as we bring in Mahb Rahman. He is a mortgage broker and the Chief Growth Officer at Safetrust Mortgage, based right here in Metro Detroit. Mahb, great to see you.
Good to be here, Justin. Thank you for the invite.
We always love seeing familiar faces here in the studio. And for our listeners, a bit about you and your history in the business. You've been at Safetrust for a year now, 8 years overall in the mortgage business. You've been a mortgage banker, a wholesale account executive, and now you are an independent mortgage broker. So just for starters, how's it been for you since becoming a broker?
Lot of trial and error. It wasn't, I think when you're in the wholesale side, there's this picture that's painted that, oh, these brokers, they sit around and they get leads all day and, they write up a 1003 and then they collect checks. There's a lot more that goes into it, obviously, which it was a very humbling experience, really, if I have to say, to figure that out early on when making the jump. But thankfully, a lot of the experience, along the way has helped. I joke all the time with my clients that, I've been in mortgages a third of my life. So from banking to one side to now this side, it's been a ride, but a lot of trial and error, Justin. A lot of trial and error.
Well, we appreciate your honesty in that regard, and we've done quite a few of these interviews, and typically we'll have a conversation in advance about what's going well, how you're really out there getting business, impressing your referral partners, impressing your clients. I don't know that I can say I've had another guest who has said operations is really the big story for our company, and that was the first thing that you brought up. So your company leads with operations.
Yes.
So tell us what that means and how you and the team at Safetrust determined that this was going to be an impactful strategy.
Yeah, that's a great question. And you're right. Yeah, we do lead everything with operations when it comes to the people that we hire, the trainings that we run for our team every single day. Obviously, like Matt talks about it all the time. And I think any big corporation, whether you think Apple or Amazon or anything, it's all about user experience. And in the mortgage space, quite often, that's not the biggest focus. It's how can I pad my margins the most, and how can I impress all these agents and build a brand and maybe get a commercial, whatever it may be. And all respect to those people and those companies, but for us it was all about the client and how do we impress the client, make the client feel at ease. And we decided that if we wanted to make client focus or client service the focus, it has to be led with operations. Our loan officers can sell anything that they want, really. Like, they could be the best salesman in the world, but if there isn't a process behind them that's tried, proven, and works, then essentially what they're selling is fugazi or whatever you want to call it. So that's really the mission and the vision behind it, I would say, and leading with that. And we use that a lot when it comes to talking to our agents, to our referral partners, and really to our clients too. Like, we don't have any bosses at Safetrust. There's no leaders, really. Our client is our boss. That's the way we see it. The client has every ability to fire us any point in time. So it's on us to build a process that we know that empowers them, that educates them, and really hopefully gets us referrals so we can feed that back to our people that support us with our referrals, right?
So tell us how it works. How have you structured your operations team at Safetrust to align with this vision?
Yeah, and that's a great question, Justin. So if you really think about it, the mortgage is a commodity, right? I tell my loan officers this all the time. The 30-year fix that you sell at 6 point whatever or 7 point whatever, it's the same 30-year fix that every single bank in the world is offering, or retail or broker, whatever it may be. What separates everyone at the end of the day is the experience, and how do you make the client feel? Like, what do you make the client feel, right? Like, how do they feel? And really taking that as precedence over anything else. And what we did was we decided that, hey, like, the mortgage process isn't different. Really, anywhere else you go, the mortgage process is the same. The reason why some companies are better at it is because they found ways to break it down, right? And we live in the automobile capital of the world, you could say, and there's assembly lines all over the place, right? And they pump out so many cars on the most efficient basis that we've ever seen. And how do they do it? They break down the process. They say, hey, you do the doors, you do the engine, you do the trans. It's probably a lot more a lot more detailed than that.
Great analogy.
But that's exactly how we broke it down. So we have loan originators who focus on bringing the client in and focusing on relationships with their referral partners and, of course, their clients. Then we hand it off to, when they're responsible, the loan officer is responsible, because we do majority purchase business. The loan officer is the one who's responsible for getting the offer accepted, right? Not just the agent. Like, we make it a focus to have LOs be proactive with offers in. But as soon as that offer is accepted, the loan goes to processing, and then the processor handles it till CTC. And we have a great, loan origination system platform that we use that keeps all parties involved. Our tech stack is amazing. And once the loan is clear to close, we pass it off to our closer, who then handles the balancing of the CD, communicating with the title companies, making sure the client knows exactly how much to wire, and things of that nature.
So you mentioned a few minutes ago your own personal trial and error since becoming an independent mortgage broker. How much of that was involved in setting up the process you just described, trying to figure out what was going to work the best for your company to provide that optimal client experience for your borrowers?
Well, I would say a lot of my experience in the business kind of was the trial and error, because, working as a wholesale account executive, you work with so many different brokers that have their own process, right? And quite often, being the wholesale account executive, you're the one that finds all the bottlenecks and finds all the solutions, right? So I would say a lot of that experience kind of helped tailor the process that we have now. I do have to get a lot of credit to one of the partners at Safetrust, Marcel. He has an underwriting and operations background, has an engineering background, so he knows all about the automotive space, and I have to give him a lot of that credit. I think when I came in the mix, there was a lot of more fine tuning, if anything. So setting up different status points to where, everyone in the transaction is notified. That way, instead of agents calling you and saying, hey, where's this loan at? They can already see where it's at just by looking through their emails or whatever it may be. So I think some of those things, some of those cogs, we kind of streamlined a little bit. We are, in the process of becoming a non-delegated correspondent lender, so we have to elevate a little bit on the back end, which is, we might add another team member into the mix. But a lot of it was just compartmentalizing. We don't want anybody doing someone else's work, Focus on what you're good at, and let's get you paid. That's really it. And let's build great relationships. Let's take care of the client, and build a solid book of business. That's really the goal that we try to empower our originators with, and our processors, closers, everybody.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how does the ops team like that setup where they're really able to focus on that defined skill set, that discipline, and really get good at it so that they can then hand it off to the next person down the line?
Well, I think that's a great question. So I think it encourages two things, Justin. And one of that is, it's accountability, right? So everyone's accountable for doing their part of the process. And if it gets to the second person or the third person in the process, well, then they can easily tell just by looking at it, hey, you're missing X, Y, and Z, right? So, luckily, I'm in a brokerage with all adults, so everyone's very respectful, and we try to be, we try to make it so it's a learning experience for everyone, because just because you might do it a certain way doesn't mean it's wrong. We just maybe haven't communicated the best. And I think that's the second thing, is that it encourages collaboration, right? We found a lot of, bottlenecks within our process that we've had to kind of smoothen out, like for credit reports, for example. That's a huge thing that I'm sure everyone's dealing with. That was a huge bottleneck in our business that we had to identify. We collaborated with everyone. We said, hey, what do you like? What do you like? And we came up with a process that hopefully it pleases everybody. But yeah, I think that's the two things. It's accountability and collaboration are the two big things that we found that's encouraged everyone to do. And it's worked. It's worked very well because of the feedback that I would say we get from our clients, but also we do run internal surveys as well. So at the end of every loan transaction, actually, the LO gets a survey about the processor gets a survey about the loan officer. So we have that set up, and we say, hey, and it's not to be like, hey, this processor forgot to upload this pay stub or something. Like, things happen. We understand that. People make mistakes. We're all human. But it's really encouraged, again, the accountability and the collaboration to find ways to constantly improve.
You have a very experienced team at Safetrust, people that have worked in this business. They know what they're doing.
Yes.
How does that impact the overall operation you guys have? And what kind of an advantage is that when you people who have underwritten loans, who have been account executives, and they bring that level of experience in this business to your company?
Well, that's a great question. So I'll give you a perfect example, Justin. So, when the market gets really, really hot in purchase season, there's this common misconception amongst real estate agents and, even the industry, I would say, where it's like, hey, I don't want to accept the FHA offer, or I don't want to accept the VA offer because of I'm afraid of the inspection, I'm afraid of the appraisal or the collateral in some way. Well, these days, you know, if you're a real estate professional, you're taking really good pictures of your listing, you know, probably the same pictures or majority of the same pictures that the appraiser is going to take, right? So one thing that it's really helped with, just to give you an example, is, you know, when I make the call to the listing agent, one of our loan officers does, it really helps to be able to tell them, hey, look, FHA is the best option for this client because of X, Y, and Z and affordability. And two, we know there's going to be no appraisal issues. I have a directly endorsed HUD underwriter in my office. He sits 10 feet away from me that can look at the listing pictures, and he's already looked at them and told me, hey, this one will be fine. No issues, right? And if there is an issue, then hey, I mean, it would have come up anyways, right? Let's get this offer accepted and let's keep it going. And that has helped tremendously. And then just, you know, last year, I would say a lot of my loans, or a handful of them, were turn downs from other lenders. And you would be surprised, Justin, how much sometimes it's just a very small oversight, you know, on commission income or self-employed income, for example, or multiple parcels, you know, on an FHA property, and knowing how to put it together, because it's not just about like the underwriter. You've got to get title on the same page. You've got to get the appraiser on the same page. So to have someone that knows the HUD handbook and the VA handbook like the back of their hand, it really, really helps in those scenarios where we have to escalate certain things, you know, where it's like, hey, you know, it's natural for a processor, an originator, to not agree with an underwriter. But when we have an underwriter, now an underwriter's talking to another underwriter, well, and not to say that, you know, there's a huge conflict or anything like that. It's always usually just something that needs to be communicated and worked out. But just to have someone in the back end that knows all of those things, it really helps. Because I'll be honest, like, I know some things about HUD and the HUD handbook, but, you know, if someone told me some very pointed guideline, I probably couldn't tell you. But it's luckily I have someone who can.
Yeah, that level of attention to detail seems like just a huge advantage for your company. And that actually dovetails into the next topic I want to ask you about, which is when you are meeting with a realtor, whether it's one you've done a loan with before or whether it's one that you are looking to work with, how do you communicate that to him or her? How do you communicate to them the experience of your ops team and how much it will help them?
That's a great question. And you know, I don't want to sound like, you know, I'm the real estate expert, you know, I'm the one who can break into any real estate office. I'm not. There's a lot of trial and error like there is with a lot of things. But one thing that I would say has really, really helped is I'm very honest with them, almost to a fault. Like one might say it's brutally honest, you know, where it's like, hey, look, like we all get rates from the same place. It's not about rates, right? Like let's take that conversation out of it. I'm sure I could beat any rate out there, but that's not what you care about, right? And at the end of the day, like I could tell you I have these turn times and that turn times, but really the mortgage, like I mentioned earlier, the mortgage process is the same anywhere you go. It's just some people just tend to do it a little bit faster or more efficiently than someone else. So I tell them straight up, I'm like, look, I don't have, like, I'm not making rocket science over here. I'm just doing mortgages. I just happen to have a process that's built where it's designed to empower the client, to educate them, because not a lot of people buy a house, but they don't really know what they're doing, you know, and keep them, obviously communicate with them throughout the entire process. And we just do the basics very, very, very well, you know, and it's funny. I was talking to a realtor earlier today. I'm trying to convince them to come out to Success Track and whatnot. And she was like, look, you do all of these things. And I was like, Misty, I was like, isn't that what I should be doing? Like, isn't that the job, right? And I was like, at what point did we lose that standard, you know? And that's what I try to explain to them. It's not, you know, again, it's not rocket science or anything like that. It's just, we just do the basics very, very well. And then I go into a lot of the other things that I can offer them, you know, like things like, hey, like what do you need help recruiting, right? Let me help you with that. Do you need, help getting listing leads and finding new investors that have multiple properties that live out of state and all of that? Because, you know, a lot of the things that we invest in are data. So we can use that data to our advantage to try and get business for our agents. Maybe we have refinances going. They own a title company, whatever it may be. You know, there's always some ways to find value, but we always lead with that. And I think they like the honesty, and they see that, like the social media posts with the fast CTC, believe it or not, that's probably been one of the biggest drivers of my success, has been the fast CTC posts, where I co-brand the agent, and I have people that are like, hey, that reach out to me. Instead of me calling them, they reach out to me and they're like, hey, like, I know you, I know your family, and like, we grew up together. I do real estate. I know you know that, but I noticed all the good things you're doing. Like, let's have lunch or something, and it spreads naturally from there. But, it all starts with just, I think, really just doing the basics right. And, we have over 150 Google 5-star reviews and all of that. So a lot of that like helps with showing them that the proof is in the pudding. And, there's a lot more I could say, I guess, but I'll leave it at that.
All right, yeah, no, and it's interesting to hear you talk about the social posts, because as I scroll through LinkedIn from time to time, I'll see some of our clients posting these fast CTCs, whether it's 10 days, 9 days, 8 days, whatever the case may be. I feel like I am constantly seeing it from every loan originator in your company. Do you feel like that level of consistency is what's opening the eyes of the realtors?
Yes. So that's a great point. So we recently we started working with the top real estate brokerage here in Metro Detroit. There was a little bit of a familial tie, if you will, with some of the owners. At least with my family and whatnot, just culturally. But it was never to a point where I reached out to them and I said, hey, like, you and me, we grew up together. We've known each other since we were in diapers. Like, let's do business together. It was never that. It was, hey, like, when the time is right, we'll see how it goes, right? And I never pushed the bruise. And they actually reached out to me, and then one of the first things that they complimented was, hey, like, we noticed how big your brand has grown just in the last 6 to 8 months, with you guys constantly posting and making content and videos. And you're right. I think, because could we hire one social media person, Justin, that just does it all for us? Sure, we could. But at that point, that brand, I feel like, becomes so singular. Whereas if we have 15 loan officers or 15 people who post their own content, but also collaborate with the Safetrust brand, and also promote their own brand, then it's a win-win, right? We reach more people recognize it, and hopefully it gets to the point where we become more, a recognizable name, and that's been a big proponent of it. Like, I got to give, Mason and Hussein and Rena and all these, because the beautiful thing is that we let them all build their own brand, so like, I'm Mahb the broker, and we have a couple people, your mortgage bestie and your mortgage star and all these names. And I love it because they all have their own colorway and they build their own brand. And then, they're basically promoting themselves. And Safetrust, we're nothing more than a platform. We're a platform to help you optimize everything when it comes to being a loan originator from start to finish, right? And to empower and to help you thrive. But I think a lot of that has shown through social media and through how energetic and how passionate some of our people are, and I think that really shows. And it's gone a long way because people have noticed, people have reached out, and it's been really good for our business.
A couple other elements of the structure that we haven't touched on that I want to ask you about. You have an experienced team. You also have a very robust training platform.
Yes.
Tell us what goes into that.
Yeah, so I have to give credit, honestly, to Melinda. She came by, she gave us some great advice about how, if you wanted to scale and you wanted to like grow, like we when I jumped on board, I think I was the third or fourth team member, and we've tripled since then, right? Still growing, right? We still have huge plans to grow even more, but we had to kind of take a step back, and we had to say, hey, there are some things like we're better off growing at the rate that we know we can handle than just growing too fast and having a scaling issue. So a lot of that had to do with building out a training platform. So that way, when people come on board, that like, because if I bring in a retail loan officer tomorrow, Justin, like from a big retail lender, maybe they've used Encompass in the past, maybe they haven't, maybe they have in-house tech. I don't know, so I have to, maybe they're coming over from, maybe they do have wholesale experience, maybe they don't. So for us, we can't expect someone to just jump on board our platform and then expect them to learn all the tools by themselves, so we have subject matter experts and we delegate. So like, for example, I'm responsible for training them on our CRM, which is Bonzo, right? Marcel's responsible for training them on our LOS, which is Arrive. And we show them how it's all integrated, how you can build a system, you can build a pipeline, you can build a clientele base. And it can be as easy as you want it to be, or it can be a little bit more difficult. Like, we want to empower them to be an entrepreneur. Like, you got to figure out some of this stuff too, just like we did. So that was a big piece. And we had to realize that, like, delegation is king, that not one person can do it all. So it's a 10-week training platform. It doesn't have to take 10 weeks. You can knock it out in 5. We've had people knock it out in 2. But it's really just learning all of the tech, learning what resources are available to you, how do you do payroll, all of those things, the basic things that we should do. And that has really helped because it's really elevated our onboarding platform. And we've gotten a lot of feedback too, because not every candidate we've been able to hire, so, and we make it a point to reach out to them and say, hey, look, best of luck, but just tell us what we could have done better. And sometimes, it's health benefits. Sometimes it's a 401k, whatever it may be. But I think, taking that step back and realizing that, hey, we have to build it out first was a huge step. It hurt at first because it was like, hey, I'm taking time away from producing and doing all sorts of things. But, that's the price you pay if you want to grow. And it's been fruitful for us so far.
Another one is your pre-approval process. And, no offense, but I feel like a lot of brokers have told me they have a very thorough pre-approval process. You said the same thing, but you also said something to the effect of, yeah, but I really mean it. We really do have a thorough pre-approval process. So tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people, like, a 40-hour pay stub for someone who works hourly is not as simple. Like, people find out real fast how not simple it is when they submit the loan to underwriting, because then they're like, oh, the year-to-date doesn't line up. And now you've got to explain that. And, like, these are all everyday conditions that I'm sure the average broker can resonate with, right? Now, for us, what we do is, like, we don't wait till underwriting to ask for those documents. We get them up front. On any self-employed, variable income, multiple businesses, multiple REOs, every single one that I've ever submitted since, jumping out of the broker side to any wholesale lender, the income was on the penny. Like, it was that accurate because they aren't, one, I have a pre-approval desk. So for me, it's like, I get Ashley involved, I get Bridget involved. And, we use work chat. It's like a meta-based, HR platform, I guess you could say. Encourages a ton of collaboration. I'd probably have 13, 14 different group chats going at once, all on different projects and whatnot. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing to see. It's kind of stressful at times, but it's a beautiful thing to see. And this group chat, Justin, I kid you not, goes off at 12:30 a.m. It's usually Marcel, but, it encourages a lot of collaboration, but we are not afraid to ask for those documents up front. And there are so many things that we can also do, like, and I think where a lot of people miss the boat is they don't explain how the consumer's income works to the consumer. So it's like, oh yeah, I make, because sure, if your salary semi-monthly at $67.50 every single 2 weeks, whatever, that's easy. But if you're an hourly based employee, there's a little bit more nuances that go into it. If you're a traveling nurse, depending on your career type, it has a big effect on, the way your income is calculated. And I think a lot of people, where they miss the boat is they don't explain it to the consumer in a dumbed down version to where they can really easily understand it. It's like, hey, Justin, you're supposed to work 40 hours a week. You worked 39 last week, so your pay stub's a little low compared to what you're supposed to be earning. Give me an explanation. Okay. All I need your explanation for now. Thank you. And we handle it that way. And then, the conditions, like right now, our average submission to CTC is 8.93 business days. So we got it in the single digits right now. Thankfully, it's because of Refi 100. A lot of refis has helped, but that's been a big proponent in it. Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, that was great to hear. And then the other one, Mahb, is the internal escalation process that you have, because as you know, things happen. Very rarely are our loans cookie cutter and they just go through, super smoothly. So tell us how that impacts the ops team.
Well, I think if you ask anyone who's been in the business over the roller coaster that we've had, like the last, 6-7 years, is, right now I think everyone's working a little bit harder, or maybe a lot harder, for a little less or a lot less. So in this environment, we all have to accept the fact that there are going to be difficult loans, and you're going to have to find a way to make them work, whether it's like, I'm not afraid to help someone like get into a home and me barely break even. Like, do I do it all the time? No. Right. But occasionally there's a family that's going to need help, and that's okay. And you build lifelong relationships from it. But I say that all to say is loans are a little bit more difficult right now. DTIs are a little bit more tight. The U.S. isn't as forgivable as it used to be during COVID, so all the more reason why you have to have the right people who know the content to be able to push the bruise a little bit and push the envelope. Luckily, a lot of our operations team, at least who handles our escalations, Ashley and Drake, they have seen and underwritten thousands of loans, so they can pull up a guideline and do an LOX and explain things much faster than I could. And I think, again, it comes back to the delegation, the collaboration, and the accountability, is hey, they'll be the first ones to tell me, hey, you messed up this income. Here's what you should have done. Here's the document you should have asked for. And, normally I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, but can we figure this out? And we figure it out. We make it work. Not to say, people misbelieve sometimes what making it work means. We're not pulling things out of thin air, but we are stretching guidelines, and, we're adding back depreciation on someone's K1, all sorts of things, but that escalation process really helps because it's kind of like when I was in AE, like if my broker ever called me or a broker called me and they were like, oh my God, Mahb, I have this fire and this is going on and that's going on. And if I was like, oh my God, oh no, what are we going to do? It just adds fuel to the fire. Right. And in this case, I can rely on these experts and it helps me stay calm. Well, I think I'm pretty calm regardless, but it helps me stay calm. So when the realtor calls me, he's like, hey, where are we at with this, and this? I can confidently say, hey, don't worry about it. Here's our timeline. I'll give you an update at this time, and we'll move on from there. And a lot of that has helped because of the pre-approval process. We don't bring in we don't bring in any clients that don't close, unless it's like an inspection-related thing or whatever. But that has helped, and then having that escalation process has helped. And sometimes it helps to even like to have them because I can prep them for an escalation before I even submit the loan. So I can say, hey, look. I know the underwriter is going to ask me about this, or they'll even tell me, they're like, look, the underwriter is going to ask you about that. And we can come up with a process or a solution even before we submit it. So it helps with the proactiveness and making things really seem like everything's going smoothly. Well, in the background, we're all like, pulling strings and whatnot, trying to make things happen. So I give a huge amount of credit to my escalation team, because without them, our originators wouldn't have, a lot of confidence that they do now.
What an amazing advantage to have. I mean, just
it is.
Listening to you talk about it, I was like, this is almost like in baseball. If you're at the plate, you can look over to the dugout and they tell you what pitch is coming. It's going to be a fastball or a curveball. No Houston Astros stuff going on, but you know what I mean. Like the advanced scouting that goes on because of the level of expertise and experience that you have on your team is truly remarkable. Final thought for you. You are the Chief Growth Officer, in addition to being a mortgage loan originator at Safetrust. What does the future growth of the company look like at Safetrust, and how will this strong operations team play a role in that?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking that. I'm very grateful for the team that we have, but we need more people to start. So we have a company mission this year. So we have company goals. We have 12 of them. One of them is to increase our community. We look at our team as a community, like our clients, our referral partners, our team members. They're our community, and we want to add more people to that community, whether it's locally, whether it's, in the states that we're licensed in. And we have an initiative right now to get to 100 loan officers by the end of the year. 100 is a big, lofty goal. Sure, I'll be the first to admit that. But hey, that's, if you want to grow, you got to set big goals, so we're looking forward to that. We have so a lot of our campaigns, like we have campaigns and things of that nature, initiatives that we do, like our Broker Shop podcast and things of that nature. One of them is Thrive. So we have, not only do we have loan officer onboarding, which is called Thrive. We have it for real estate agents as well. So we have a robust training platform for realtors, and we're making a new Thrive campaign for recruiting loan officers. So it's going to be a huge project this year. We're already pretty much halfway done. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure you'll be seeing a lot on social media. I'm going to go back to my Inside Pass days and
there we go.
Bring out the on-camera skills, I guess, and the experience. But that's the biggest focus. Other than that, I would say increasing our knowledge of things outside of just residential. We want to be a little bit of a player in the commercial game a little bit, in the investor game, fix and flip, multifamily residential. We want to, because there's a lot of that business out there, and it takes a little bit more time, but it doesn't hurt to have that knowledge, because you never know where that might lead when it comes to a business relationship. So, I would say those are the two big things that we're focused on growing with this year.
Well, I would not put anything past you and your team because you guys have done so many great things in a relatively short period of time already. So we're thrilled for all of your success, and of course, we wish you lots of great things still to come. Mahb Rahman with us from Safetrust Mortgage. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Justin.
Thank you for watching Good Better Broker and helping us support independent mortgage brokers everywhere. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to be notified about new videos, as well as your preferred podcast platform for a new episode every other Tuesday.